We're going to go ahead and get started.
Call Sharon.
If we have your attention, please, we call this meeting to order. Any additions to the agenda?
Okay. My wife's getting ready to go.
We're waiting for her.
No, we're
Okay, we're moving.
but she's connecting Sharon. We're going to go ahead and move. We're called to order and ask for any additions or deletions to the agenda.
Yes, I have. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do have a few adjustments to the agenda.
Good morning, Gregson.
Good morning, Sharon.
Hi.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
Wanted to add an asset committee statement on a notification that was sent to the town of Front Royal for winterization funds for the afternoon.
Okay, and I think that's under 6.1.
Absolutely, that is. Thank you. Wanted to make a statement of the notice of intent to terminate afternoon.
Okay.
We discussed that at our last meeting and wanted to talk about the continuing progress on that.
Okay.
Wanted to discuss with the board engineering study proposed by 2 East Main to approve costs for engineering study on the afternoon to determine the actual winterization costs associated with that.
Okay.
And I wanted to make a statement to the board or an update to the board on the negotiation of the Royal Lane property as it relates to Cornerstone Construction.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
I have for the closed meeting, want to add an agenda item. There are 2 matters to discuss: the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and the negotiating strategy of the public body, 404 Fairground Road and 514 East Main Street pursuant to 2.2 3711A3.
Any other amendments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda with these additions?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. Special board minutes from December 9 and December 27.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as posted to each one of us for December 9th, 27th, December 13th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Well, I can't second that because I was not part of the meeting.
I'll second.
I can second.
Discussion?
I just want to say that we're making changes to how we do the board minutes. You'll see that more in the December 27th board minutes. What we're trying to do is to have it be much more action-oriented. This is what actually happened, and less in regards to the back and forth of what went on. And that this is much more in line with how minutes are typically done. It'll take a lot of burden off of Gretchen coming up with the minutes that we've had in the past. I think it's a real step forward for us. It gets everything that we need in here without it being a novel.
Is it kind of, we approved the $2,500 for the engineering at our last meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's in the minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then we don't need to approve it again?
Well, that's what my point.
No, but I think it's got something else we want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. Executive Committee, Mr. Brown.
Okay, I want to give you updates on 2 events that will be ongoing. The first is on the 22nd of this month, Spotted Lantern Fly Infestation event. What we're going to be, it's at 1 to 3 at the Inland Port. You're all invited to it. It's
Jorie.
This first event, we're going to be bringing together officials from surrounding counties and our county and the town of Front Royal. So it includes Winchester, Frederick, Warren, Shenandoah, Clark, Front Royal, Luray, Stevens City, Berryville, Middleton, Strasburg, Tomsboro, Woodstock, Edinburgh, Mount Jackson, Newmarket, our regional commission next door, and the inland port. The primary lifters of this are the regional commission and Felicia Hart in the tourism department for the town and county. And we're getting a wonderful go along with it. This is a really critical issue for regional and agriculture and for our shippers. We're bringing in experts, the extension agents, experts in the wine industry, and others that have been fighting this issue in their counties so that we get their experience. This is the start of a program where we will have a public event later in the spring as people begin to look at their gardens and other things that they're doing, and also for farmers and others in the region. We will have newspaper articles and do other things. This is positive news for EDA and is, in my mind, exactly what we ought to be doing to help the existing businesses in the county and the town. It highlights the inland port, which I think is one of our shining stars in our region, and something that we ought to be doing on a consistent and constant basis. It also positions us in regional cooperation, which I think is one of the critical things that we want to be involved with as we move forward and look to the future. So that's that piece to it. But it looks to be a good, solid event and the start of something that's important. We have to recognize that spotted lanternflies have been already found in surrounding counties. We have the opportunity to get ahead of this, to get public awareness up on it, to talk about what we can do to minimize the damage and what to do in case you find it, and be involved from the very start of this rather than reacting to it. So from that standpoint, I'm sad that this is what we have to deal with, but thrilled that we're able to have a response that's very forward-looking. The second event is the open house. This would be for commercial properties in Warren County and Front Royal. It would include EDA properties and some commercial properties. We're in the process of figuring out exactly what we want to do. We have 4 hours, and a lot of the focus is going to be on making presentations to realtors who are coming in from the Blue Ridge Association of Realtors. They've had a really good response for this. We think we probably will be filling up at least one trolley car of people. It's a captive audience that we get as you go from property to property. In some cases, we're going to be doing the drive-bys of property, particularly land and properties that perhaps aren't ready for public viewing. And then Baugh Drive, for example, would be a prime suspect for where we would have them tour and take a look at it. What we're going to do is to have a sense of the breadth of opportunity for commercial real estate in Warren County and in Front Royal. We'll also be giving them a booklet with all the EDA sites in it. Even if we don't get to them, they have it. It's something that they have. They're going to be town and county planning, zoning people on the buses, giving brief presentations as you go from site to site. There'll be a breakfast that the realtors are going to be hosting. The town is going to be picking up the trolley. But it's a great opportunity to pitch commercial realtors on what's available in Front Royal and Warren County. So those are those two events.
You have the commission agreement in Case Springs?
Oh, I do, hold on.
Is it in the packet?
Yeah, in the packet, there is a commission agreement to provide a real estate commission for the sale of a property.
And we have talked a couple of, this is 6%, I would note, but we have talked about the fact that we need to have a policy.
Yes.
Whatever that policy is going to be, so that every potential recipient knows the policy in advance.
I can give you an update on that. So, that would fall into the policy. I've asked Doug to provide some documents to me from the county as it relates to the real estate relationships that the county has had
Okay.
in the past, and I have spoken to several commercial brokers that I have trusted with the typical national and in this region commission structure may be. I hope to have a draft presentation provided I get the information by the official meeting at the end of this month.
Okay.
Greg, question for you. Is there a standard percentage that's given, or does it depend on the size of the property and what you can negotiate with them?
Correct. So it's usually a sliding scale. Residential has a little bit of a different structure than commercial. Evaluation of the property also impacts the commission structure, and whether it's raw land or whether it's a facility will also have an impact on that. Generally, properties that are in excess of $10 million, it becomes a pure negotiation.
Good. Look forward to that.
That will be outlined, absolutely. And there will be a commission breakdown structure. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to approve this agreement on this specific property.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that was approved at a previous meeting, if I'm not mistaken, and it was just awaiting a signature based upon my satisfaction of actually receiving an agency disclosure from the broker,
That is correct.
which I did receive.
Now, what portion of that property is this? It's just this front part, right?
It's the old trailer lot.
I know where the trailer.
That's the back portion. The front portion is owned by the town, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's several different parcels in there owned by the town and or
The corner. I'm talking about the corner where the little store used to be.
Yeah, so there's the very corner, and then if you turn and go up Reliance Road just a few yards,
That's
on
where the trailer
right,
park
where
is.
the old trailer park goes. If that's the piece we own, it's just a couple of acres.
Okay.
So, I'm looking for something in the minutes here where we've approved.
Well, that would have been done before these minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been done in the fall.
Actually, didn't Doug bring it to us?
I think it was several months.
Yes,
It was
several
all-
months
yeah,
ago.
in the-
It was Doug, Stanley brought it and said
And
we
we
needed
were-
to do it, yes.
Waiting for approval. I would feel happier if we approved it as it looks right here without the redactions, just that we are approving this document.
You want to approve it without the redactions?
Right.
Do you have a pen?
And I know that the redaction, that they are taken out so that I'm signing something everybody has seen.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Okay. Are we looking for
A motion.
a new motion? Okay. I'm sorry, walk me through it one more time. I didn't realize it was.
Motion to approve this document
Right.
without the redactions.
I move that we approve a commission agreement for sale of a property on Reliance Road and Winchester Road without the redactions.
Second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. I'll sign it.
I'll get you a clean copy.
Thank you. Finance Committee.
I've done this first draft, and there are several changes that will be made, first of all, to the proposed 2021 draft budget for the EDA. Two things that will change on this budget is that I have added a column, since this was originally done, for what our budget was last year, such as it was. So it was difficult to translate as we moved over into the county, paying and a number of other things. Also, since this budget was done, not material, but there have been several additions that I was unaware of that needed to be in the budget. So they also have been added to the budget. I've also moved the IT Federal, their payment, if you will, from income on the operating side to where it belongs over on debt service, which is on the back page. Right now, the total budget, and this includes, and I certainly hope that we have settled the police department by July of 2020, but I have left it in there being conservative at this point, since we had hoped for many months that this would be completed, and it has not to date. But right now, the total budget is that we're looking for debt service is $1,007,000, which $504,000 of it is offset by IT Federal. So the Warren County portion is $1,213,743. That obviously will go down if the police department is settled and as we sell property, but that is the most conservative, if you will, estimate at this point of where we are, or budget figure. I've also, on the operating side, you will see that I have listed explanations beside each one so that you know what makes up that line item. I also will have, there is some more detail that I can also provide. One of the things that will change is on the community projects. I had $2,500 in there. I have since learned that we are being asked to do phase 2 of a project that will go up to $10,000. That would be our portion. That will certainly be up to the board to decide whether they want to leave it in there. And obviously, ultimately, since we will be asking the county for the money, whether it's the Board of Supervisors wishes to leave it in. Also, rent income I did as it is now. I'm hoping certainly by July that if we can get the solar panels off the roof and we can get this building in shape, we could have this, this building leased, which obviously would up our rental income. That is certainly, I know Greg's goal and certainly my goal, that we, from an asset side, get this building in shape, that we can rent it to, hopefully, folks that bring jobs and quality to this community. We also, too, have left in our esteemed attorney, who has done wonderful things for us, which is a large part of our budget. And I do want to note that we really, our operating expenses are relatively low. I think you do get a lot of bang for your buck, especially now. The majority of what we would be asking the county for is debt service. And debt service, as they say, is debt service. There's nothing I can do about those figures or cut it. The other thing that I did do, I did go ahead and up. We had not been underpaying, it had been the deal with First Bank to pay a lesser amount than what we should be paying to get our debt paid off. So I did go ahead and increase that particular payment to the $49,000 instead of $40,000. So I believe this will be a good start, that the public and most of all the EDA board members and the Board of Supervisors will understand what we are asking for and what the expenses are for the EDA, and mainly for debt service of what properties we own, and we certainly, after this point, I would think want to keep and eventually develop. And so that's the budget at this point. That segues right into the next. I apologize for not having it ready today. I have had the figures, but I just haven't had a chance to do it because I have a real job. But anyway, we, as of cash available, as of 12/31, we had $481,995 in the bank, and that was, not in the bank, we have more than that, but we had
481?
$481,995. But what we did is that is, we have more money than that in the bank, let me clarify. What we did do is back out what we know are expenses, like Wells Roofing, the rezoning for Happy Creek, the interest expense for First Bank and Trust, the website that we're going to develop, and December payroll and benefits. So, and now we have a couple of others small, but the afternoon and a couple of others. Based on this, what I'm leading up to, and I will be short, is that we should, quote, run out of money about the middle of March, and that's where we are. So there it is, and if you all have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to address them.
This is very comprehensive. I appreciate the work you've done on this. It shows a lot of where we are, so that everybody can understand exactly what the pieces are that fit in this. A couple of questions.
I hope I can answer them.
Wanted to back up to what you were talking about, the 481,995. Does that include the money that was taken out for the police department a year ago? So
Yes.
that money is part of this?
Yes.
So, because we talked about we were gonna put that back,
You mean give it back to the, yeah, I mean.
put it back in the bank.
Yeah, we did on this, and I just, because it was a draft, what we did on this sheet, which is we have backed out all of the expenses. So the 481, and I correct, is we actually have much more cash in the bank, but what we've done is subtracted out the bills that we know we are going to have to pay.
So this
and
is the
what-
net.
That's the net, yes, sir. So that's the net on that, so.
And that assumes we put the money back in.
Exactly, yes, exactly, so that we pay it back to the bank. So this is what we would term basically available cash for our operations and for debt service. So I took that figure and then took what our debt service is every month and what our average expenses are, which frankly, to run the EDA is about $45,000 a month, which is, I think, not bad, to tell you the truth. So anyway, that's where we are, and based on that, subtracting it out, we come out to about the first to the middle of March. And again, I have a couple more figures that I need to put in. There are certainly items that are discretionary to a point of where you want to have those dollars. But my job as treasurer, I thought, was to bring everything to the table so that everyone can look at it, digest it, and discuss it, and then decide whether they want to leave it in the budget, pare it down, or beef it up wherever we are. But I will, as I said, caution everyone again, there is not anything we can do about debt service. We have spent the last several months, as you well know, going to the different banks and everything else. We have the best deals that we're going to get right now with our banks. We don't have any wiggle room at all. So I certainly did not prepare this budget with any pie in the sky that there is any better rate out there or anything else. The main thing that will change is, as I said, I thought we would have the police department settled and done well before this. And as I sat down to prepare this, I decided, should I put the police department in or not? You know, July's a long way out, and then I thought, you know, at the rate we're going, I'm leaving it in. So there's the debt service in there for the police department if they can't figure out what they're doing.
I would
So
note-
that's where we are.
I would note for everybody's edification that you have a copy of the bill as of December 31, what the town bill is there of $8,775,000. So that everybody knows that and everybody has a copy and they can see it. Do we have,
That's a question. How did you handle the CDs?
CDs, we're using that cash.
Yeah, they're part of the unrestricted cash.
I mean, there was nothing else I could do, Tom.
Yeah, okay, I just,
Yes, absolutely.
so is there a plan as to how we put this money back in the bank from the police department?
Yes. I've spoken with Jamie Spiker,
Okay.
and her and Carolyn Stillmore are gonna work on a memo format that we will sign. I
Okay.
need you and Jorie to sign this memo after the meeting, so please don't run off before that.
What's the memo say?
It just says that we're going to move the money from what they're calling the construction account, where they segregated that
Yes.
314, and they're gonna move it over to our checking, so we can stroke a check and pay back the United loan for the police department for that exact amount to reduce the principal.
Do we need the board approval?
It wouldn't hurt.
We could just to say that we're going to approve this memo to put the money back into the construction account where it came from last year.
Basically, to pay back its first bank, didn't it?
This is a United.
Oh, United loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would make a motion that we, that the board authorize Mr. or Dr. Daly and myself to sign a memorandum to transfer that money to the checking account with the goal that the money would be then paid back to United for the police department for the overdraw.
Second.
Discussion.
All we're doing is just cleaning up the accounts.
Absolutely.
Cleaning up the account, reducing our interest. We're paying interest on it.
Got it? Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. Two other quick questions on the rental property. Is there a plan on how we're going to improve the property so we can rent them?
Yes, actually, well, I mean, let me put it to you this way, I have not brought it to the board,
Okay.
and I have not brought it to the executive committee. But in Jorie Martin's mind, as far as improving the rental, property here, which is kind of what I do, I would think the first step, and we should have it, is to get the solar panels off the roof, at least as far as this property, which I think is the low-hanging fruit. And then to go ahead and get this particular space cleaned up with all of the items out, floors repaired. I did put in $14,000 for that, to get that taken care of. I also have money in here. I think our signage out on at our properties for our industrial parks certainly needs some attention, and I put money in the budget for that. I don't have bids on that yet. I figured that would be, but I did put in a budget figure. The other thing, as far as improving our property, I did put money in. I did not have a figure specifically from the county because they've been doing our work, so I looked at what commercial would be. We may need to tear that down, but I broke out mowing and a number of other items so that you didn't have just this big line item that says maintenance or landscape, so that people knew what we were doing with that money, that this is a budget, this is what we figure it's gonna take us to mow the property, to keep them up, and to do all of those things. So, as we all know, a budget is a budget. You live within your budget, and then you go out for bid and try to make sure you stay within your budget. So if you ask me, do I have hard numbers? The only thing that I have put in this is basically 35 years of experience in property management. So I have taken my best guess.
So the assets committee might want to take up putting this in some sort of a plan to say we're going to do steps 1 through 5
So
so that we can rent these properties.
we have that listed in our yearly goals that we talked about.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
is, in fact, I referenced those just the other day to make sure that we were tracking that to a degree, and that is an item that is on there.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see this property and get these panels off, by, certainly by the end of February at the latest. And then spend, a month or so getting it cleaned up, we have the commission in place. Once that's done, we can start advertising and renting this, and renting these spaces out when they look as they should. There are items here, I have in here, we certainly need to paint our fence, we need to get our lights fixed. You can't come into the EDA and here we are, economic development, and our property doesn't look good. We need to have it, we need to be the jewel of the crown as far as you drive in. And I think the perception certainly has been that we haven't been, but we need to start. And if we don't start with our own house, then we certainly can't ask people to come here. So we need to move forward.
I would agree that this is our storefront,
Yes.
and it does need to be representative of what we do. If I may, I have just a couple of comments or questions. If we eliminate the solar panels, is that accounted for in the electric budget that you have for next year?
Yes.
Okay, so that's assumed that those panels have been removed and we're going to increase costs for that. Okay, so that's covered, so we won't have a bust on that. The second item is, how does this, I understand that debt service is fixed within a degree. How does the operating compare with prior years from an increase standpoint?
I didn't bring my other copy, so I can't answer that intelligently. I believe, well, it's actually down somewhat because off the bat, because our personnel costs are so much less. Yes, our overhead is a lot less.
Okay.
Absolutely it is. And I should have brought that other copy, but I was waiting to make the changes.
Unless I missed it, I don't see, in here, and it might be, fixing up and building out the other properties here.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's in there.
Asking you to do that.
Yeah, the
Should
money's in
we,
there.
so my question is, should we, they're all in here.
Yeah, the only thing that I have planned is fixing this space right here up, if you will. And then new signage for our parks.
So do we have a capital improvements line item?
Right.
No, and actually I left it all under the operating. I could move that under, because it hasn't been in the past, like capital improvements, if you wanted to move
I
it
think it's
there.
important to try
Okay.
to understand what that budget may be.
And
I think that
that's-
would be a good idea
Okay.
to
Yeah.
make that, put that down as a
Here.
capital,
Okay.
so we can show it as an investment.
because this is also, frankly,
This is start.
I was gonna say, frankly, if we wanna do that, I will go ahead and do what I do with my other budgets and break it down, even though the codes are, the codes we can leave aside, they'll leave on there, but I'll break it down: administrative costs, operating costs, capital costs, under 3 different and then with the total, because that's the way I do my budgets, for everything else. But the EDA budget had not been done that way before, so frankly, I just kept it the way it was to make it clear. But I do think it would make sense to do administrative costs and have that as a line item, your operating costs, and then a total, subtotal, and then your capital expenses of what you anticipate doing, and that total, and add those together. So I'm happy to break that out and have that done.
I think when we bring this proposal forward to the board supervisors, the easier we can make it and the cleaner we can make it for everybody to see exactly what is entailed here. You've done so much work here, it really helps us to see what it is, and the more we can clarify everything.
I'm happy to do that.
That's very helpful.
And if you supervisors that are here have any input, please just email me and let me know. I'll be working on this, hopefully this afternoon. I've had a busy week at work, so I just haven't, and at night, every night I've said, I'm gonna do this, and then I haven't. So anyway, today is the day.
one more quick question. On the solar panels, the regional jail is supposed to give us a deadline at some point, aren't
Correct.
they? I was trying to remember when they're supposed to give us a response.
If I remember, and Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was the 10th was when their preliminary that they were working, so I have not bothered the superintendent out there, so, and I think that at that point, what they were looking at is whether it was even worth going forward from their payback standpoint to go forward or not. So I will contact him next week, and if they are off the table, I'm assuming that I will call in, because I will not be at the January meeting, that I would be able to present the alternative. We do have a firm offer for buying the solar panels and for them to take the solar panels off the roof at no cost to us, which is about a $40,000 savings of what we'd have to spend to take those panels off if we were paying for them ourselves. So that's where we are.
Sharon?
Yes, sir.
And we talked about these solar panels before,
We did.
and I'm thinking that the different places that Mrs. Martin had contacted, that we did not have to advertise this any further. Is that correct, or should we?
That's correct. We concluded we didn't have to do that any further. You could do it if you wanted to.
Okay. Maybe if we get an answer, we could post a brief notice in the paper.
You had talked about that, Ed, and frankly, I dropped the ball. We should go ahead and put an ad, in the paper and just advertise the EDA is wishing to dispose of this material. This is what it is, and here's where it is, and have a deadline. We certainly can do that if you wish. As I said before, I reached out to all of through Rappahannock Electric, pretty much all of the solar folks that would be interested in buying panels for different, for different purposes. And the people that have come back have been a nonprofit. I wish it were in Warren County, it isn't, but I can tell you that all of the solar panels will go to good use in affordable housing and in education and a number of other places that would certainly benefit folks, in the state of Virginia.
I'm thinking that if we could put this notice out this next week and give a limit, it doesn't have to be very extensive at all, but a limited amount of time so that on the 24th we can be considering entering into an agreement with this company. So that it would then move forward is what I'm getting at.
I like that idea, and no disrespect to the local media organizations. I just want to make sure that advertisement, if we're looking to expand that pool of applicants, that it goes to the right people, if that's the intent.
I think in all honesty,
Is there
Ray, I think it already has
if
reached.
it has, okay.
Frankly, I think it's already reached all of the folks that would really be interested in it. That's just.
Just want to make sure we're taking advantage of any state publications that, from.
We would put it in EDA.
Exactly, okay.
We can do that, yes.
Sharon, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, the chairman anticipated what I was going to say. You could let EDA know.
We'll put it on EVA and then put it in the local paper in case there's somebody down the street here who didn't know anything about it, but I think you covered all of the industry bases. I think you've done that, so. Okay. Anything else on this? And we'll keep working on this. We wanted everybody to see it. And this is a copy of what the county administrator has.
Yes,
So this is what he's working with also.
Yeah, and I will send the updated. And I think the other three things under finance, I think somebody else needs to cover because I did not know that they were going to be on the agenda. So, but I certainly agree for whoever it was that we need to, we certainly plan to bid out for our audit services. So if we need a motion for you know, for me to move forward to put out the bid for audit, we can do that. And,
Would like a motion for that.
I'll go ahead and propose that we bid out the FY 2019 audit services.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we will put a proposal out for that. Appraisal for the property, Progress Drive.
Yes, we've received three appraisal quotes. The lowest would be $2,200. So I thought that came in pretty well. So,
We just need a motion to approve that. is all.
and then we can get them going.
Is the $2,200 guy the right guy?
He has done appraisal work for some of our other properties, but
Is he the right guy?
he is. It's,
Okay.
I know what you're asking.
Okay.
Okay, so he's good.
he's the right guy.
Okay.
Do we need to include the name in the?
We should, yes, please.
Okay, it's Andy Ruffner, and he did our Ball Drive building.
And that proposal is how much?
$2,200.
2,200.
Okay.
I make a motion then that we approve, Andy Ruffner to do the appraisal for 1325 Progress Drive
For $2,200.
for $2,200.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is unanimous.
Just to let you know, that's RSG Commercial Property.
Okay, RSG Commercial,
I
okay.
should have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
as you know, I have a real job to
Yes.
go to. So I'm gonna have to leave.
thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the last but not least, Tom, thank you. You're gonna sign my bills for me while I'm in Florida. Okay, I mean, if that, if you will, I originally thought that they could go ahead and, my business, they scan them to me, and then I just approve them and send them back. So I could do that as well. I didn't want to save a bit. Tom, if you want to sign them and that's already been set up, I'm okay with that.
Well, this is probably a surprise to him too, this is my idea. Is
Okay.
that there be somebody here who can sign for finance before Mr. Brown or I are the second signator. And I will be gone part of the time you are, so it's gonna be.
And we're gonna be neighbors, I
Dr.
think.
Patterson
Yeah.
and Mr. Brown will be signing them.
Get together for coffee.
There you go.
And see,
Go
we'll
get
be
coffee.
down in Florida, because I think he's going only about maybe 15 miles from where I'm gonna be.
But I'm only going through there, I'm going over to the other side
Oh,
to
okay.
stay.
So,
Assets Committee. Thank you.
Do we have to authorize this?
Yes, please, I'm sorry.
So
That would be
we want to
good.
authorize Tom Pattison to sign the accounts payable invoices on a temporary basis or on a permanent?
Alternate for the finance.
An
committee.
alternate
For the
for the
finance.
finance
finance.
committee.
for the period while I'm gone in Florida, which is the idea.
Well, we might as well have it just be.
It was gonna be,
Oh,
if you're unavailable, he could sign
Oh,
it as
sure.
finance.
Yeah.
He would be the finance person to sign.
Do I need to redo that or are we good?
I think we're good. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is unanimous.
Abstain.
The abstention. Assets Committee, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assets Committee's been pretty busy so far in January. We do have an update for the afternoon winterization efforts. Gretchen, do you have a copy of that? So all of the board members received this email the other day. I made another copy for everybody to reference during this meeting, and a copy for any participants or press that would like to review this as well. Thank you. So without getting into the weeds on this too much, the EDA received in early December a request from the town attorney, Mr. Napier, to commence some repairs on the afternoon due to some debris falling. There was a series of emails and communications between that December 6th period and the January 7th period of 2020, which was the most recent communication from the town, again expressing additional desire to properly shore and secure the building for the winterization. I don't want to talk too much about the communications between those two dates and take things out of context, but the The main gist of this is that the memorandum of agreement that the town of Front Royal signed with the EDA stipulated in 2 paragraphs that they are responsible for the maintenance thereof. So we have drafted a letter with our attorney. This was sent yesterday to the interim town manager, Mr. Tedrick, the mayor, Mayor T-Walt, and the town attorney, Mr. Napier, requesting reimbursement of costs up to $15,700 for the winterization and securing of the afternoon for a temporary basis. Again, this is detailed in the memorandum of agreement. This was sent out the other day. I certainly hope to have an answer or a response from the town of Front Royal in a reasonable period of time so we can move forward on this project as it has been deemed very critical by the town that something occur on this building to secure it properly. Does anybody have any questions on this?
Good work.
Thank you, sir.
So is there a motion to confirm this
Oh,
letter?
thank you. So I just wanted to normally this would go through, the board process, but due to the emergency nature of it, this was run through the executive committee with full approval of the executive committee prior to it going out. So this is bringing everybody up to speed on that.
This is that and asking them to approve the fact that I signed it.
That's correct.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
The signature.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous.
Next item, we had the notice of intent to terminate the agreement with 2 East Main that was discussed at the last EDA meeting. That item was tabled, but due to the emergency circumstances that we're incurring right now at the afternoon, the notice of intent to terminate was sent to 2 East Main. We are awaiting their reply. They have been given a reply deadline. Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was January 24th or the 27th by which
They were told, and the board deferred action until January 24th meeting. So there's no deadline before that meeting for a reply, but we are anticipating a reply from 2 East Main in the next day or so.
Thank you very much. So that looks like that's going to move very quickly. So
So the letter we sent was a notice that we will take this up, consider termination on the 24th.
that is correct. This is just an advance notice. This is not a separation agreement, a negotiation at this time. This is strictly this is what our intent is to do.
This is the separation period.
Yes, that is correct.
Before the divorce.
We did also approve in the last meeting the engineering costs of $2,500 at 2 East Main to conduct a study on the afternoon to actually determine the actual finite costs of that. Again, we advanced that a little bit quicker due to the additional debris falling from the building. I was unsatisfied with the original proposal as drafted by 2 East Main, and I sent my comments to the executive committee. And 2 East Main, they have since modified that to my satisfaction, and we are moving forward in that direction. And that would be for $2,500. And the scope of work is to assess the building conditions which may result in a hazard to the general public as a result of sitting vacant for the foreseeable future, and to prepare a report making general recommendations for preserving the current integrity of the building and maintaining the safety of the general public for the foreseeable future.
We did authorize this at the last meeting.
We did authorize this, and we just need a signature to make that
This copy.
official, and they are prepared to go out today.
I saw that.
I can say, if you want to keep that to you for sure.
This will be the official one.
Okay.
They are prepared to go out today
Geez,
to
me
conduct a
today.
study on that.
There's one typo in the comments.
Okay, yes.
On the final line under comments, MAID. Pretty sure that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I guess we could leave it as made.
Yeah, good, cleaning.
Gotta love that spell
Yeah,
check.
cleaning up better.
Nurse, made as a nurse across the street.
So this is the EDA's good faith effort right now in advancing this project, despite not having approval yet from the town of Front Royal to reimburse these costs. These costs have been included in my letter. Again, we will see how the town reacts to that in the foreseeable future. I hope to have a more extensive report on this during our next meeting. Next item I have is we have begun negotiations, or we are actually starting official negotiations with Cornerstone. They are the current owner of the Royal Lane property, which was intended for the workforce housing project. We do have a meeting with their attorneys lined up for Monday to discuss reclaiming that property. So most of that discussion, or much of that, will probably occur in a closed meeting in the future, but for the public purposes, the EDA is anxious and is making efforts and strides in reclaiming our assets that we feel that were improperly transferred.
Who's going to be at that meeting from EDA?
That will be myself, Dr. Pattison, Cullen Setzer, and the other gentleman from Sands Anderson,
Lee.
Berg. Thank you, Lee Berg, and two gentlemen from the Akins groups, and their last names are Akins, so I imagine they were.
Jason and Williams.
They are the two principals of the Akins group.
Good.
That is correct. That is all that I have for the asset committee report.
Thank you.
Just as an interesting thing, Jason is a director of First Bank of Strasburg.
Okay. Good point.
Very close-knit group of people in this community. Yeah.
He's also on the Wayside Theater.
Jason is.
He was.
I want to say that I feel very positive about this meeting that's forthcoming. This meeting was requested by Cornerstone. This was not preempted or prompted by us. So Cornerstone is ambitious to put this behind them.
Okay, good, very good. Update on the 2018 audit?
Our accountants are working very hard on that. We did receive a response from YHB with a list of items that they say they need to complete the audit. Our accountants feel they have much of this already. They would have to produce the draft part of it. Carolyn has completed a lot of work on the leach run side. She's been able to tie that into the general ledger. She's still going through that project for fraudulent transactions and has discovered some even here very recently related to that project. We have Heather Tweedy scheduled for 3 days this month. She's made it known that she would be available for up to 4 more to help Carolyn. She is quite possibly the only person on earth that could help Carolyn based on her knowledge base and her experience in working with our books over the last year. I would humbly suggest that we would authorize up to 7 total days for Heather here in the month of January to help Carolyn complete the work that she needs to do by the deadline of January 31st to get those materials.
And I was waiting for you to say that. The bottom line is that I certainly support the 4 extra days, but the deadline is January 31st. We have to have all of this complete. We have, there is not another day that we can let that go beyond.
I would note that the beginning of Hoddle and Willis predates everybody at this table with the exception of Dr. Patterson. So it's about time.
Does Carolyn feel confident with the additional time that Heather was offering, that the 31st will be met despite the mandate that it will be met?
She did say that she feels she can make it by the 31st.
And actually, it was not arbitrary. We sat down, the 3 of us,
Okay.
and you know, yes, I can be autocratic, but I said, you know, we really need to get this done. Is the 31st realistic? And they all said that by the 31st, they could get this done.
Pending approval of the additional man hours.
Actually, that was without the additional man hours, so we should get it before then, I would think.
Well, but again, there's a list from YHB, and while they do have a lot of those materials, there are some that are going to require that the proposed adjusted journal entries are completed before they can produce some of those items on that list. So I
I
feel
fully
it's,
support what you're saying, so yes, I think the 4 extra days we should do, but
How many years has Jan Hyde been doing this audit?
oh my God.
at least 10, maybe
At
more.
least 10? Are they really trying to say they don't have most of that information that they had listed there?
That's what they said in the email. They sent us an extensive list of things, but again, our accountants feel they have some of these items already.
If they did the audit before, they had to.
Well, for the 18 fiscal year, it's my understanding they've done a draft audit in the past. And so in order to produce the draft audit, they would have had to have had some of these items.
So the audits before were draft audits?
No,
No.
I mean, at least I know when I was here, they were finalized.
I'm just saying that from what I'm told, there was a draft audit for fiscal year 18 produced. It's certainly not the completed product. And in order to produce that draft for that fiscal year, they must have had some of this information that you're asking for.
But they did the real audits for 17 and prior.
Right, yeah. Now, I don't
And it's
know
the
about
same
what-
information.
It's the same categories of information, but obviously the
Numbers change, but some of the
Yes,
facts don't.
yes, the numbers
Right.
change.
But the facts don't. Okay.
Should capitalize expensive.
So is there a motion to authorize Huddle and Willis for an additional 4 days?
I would make that motion.
Second, yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion is unanimous. And, all right, sale of 404 Fairground?
Yes, right before Christmas, the buyer informed us that he was having a hard time finding drawings that showed where the sewer for the building tied into the public sewer system. And so he asked that we verify where that connection would take place. So on December 19th, the town came out and they looked the area over. They opened the sewer pipe coming out of the building and they ran a line with a camera down it. And instead of going into the town sewer, it went into a septic tank. And we discovered that we are not hooked up to the town sewer, even though we've been paying for town sewer since 2002.
So that would be 18 years
Yep.
that they've been billing us.
So we've been billed for sewer for 17 to 18 years and we have not been hooked up to the town sewer. We have instead been on the 1983 septic tank that was installed with the house. So due to that epiphany, we've had further negotiations with the buyer and the draft purchase agreement here that has been revised as of last night. Would show, well, this is confidential until the sale's complete.
Yeah,
So-
let's give it to the board, the supervisors. They can have our confidential information. To see what, they need to know what we're doing out here.
Right. So in order to provide the buyer with a functioning septic system, it's going to take about $4,000 worth of work. The septic tank is in functioning condition. It may need reparged. The distribution box is not in good shape. The 3 lines leading out of the distribution box, 2 of them are plugged, 1 of them is collapsed. So that work will need to be done to make it a functioning septic system. So what we've agreed upon with the Assets Committee and the purchaser would be a $4,000 credit to his closing cost, and then we let him do that work so that there would be no liability on the part of the EDA after the sale for us having contracted with the septic fellow in case something were to go wrong downstream. No pun intended. So that's the deal we have. We have the latest purchase price of $335,257, but then a credit of $4,000 toward its closing costs. The only other change on the contract is we extended the settlement period from 75 to 100 days since the end of the study period on October 23rd.
So by wording it this way, we protect the $120 of the commission.
I'm sorry, 120.
By making this part of our closing costs, we protect the commission below it of 120. It keeps that, he doesn't lose $120 for all the hard work he's done.
You're exactly right.
That's what I thought.
And how much did the town charge us from 2002 to current?
I've spoken with BJ Wilson at the town. I believe it's in the neighborhood of $4,500, but we need to do a little extra work to see if that's the case.
I mean, for all that time? No.
I'll double check, but that's what I was told. He's going to get us.
The sewer is based upon water usage, and so if there was,
Yeah, but there's a minimum.
there is a flat fee to connect.
There's a flat fee out there.
That's it.
Yeah, so we'll nail that down. He's going to get us, I believe, screenshots of, or he may have already. We'll get screenshots of the past bills down.
Do we know what the interest rate was during this time period?
It's pretty high.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
If it was the 70s, it was 18%. Just in a real quick summary, the Assets Committee still supports this contract. There was no way to know that the septic was not hooked up to the sewer because the North County GIS hadn't listed it properly. So a reasonable person would assume, based upon that report, that it was hooked up. This is still a quality deal for the EDA. Again, I will reiterate that this property does not fit into our repertoire of assets that we want to hold. This would be a good opportunity to dispose of this property and to allow a local business to expand.
So is there a motion to approve the amended contract with those two amendments?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is
And when
unanimous.
would settlement be on this now? With the, I mean, when are we looking to go to settlement?
I think it could be very soon.
Okay.
The buyers indicated that I believe they're ready on their end.
So I can adjust obviously the insurance number on the budget as well.
I think so.
So, okay.
And the utilities.
And utilities. So there you go. Always some change.
Is that January? I mean, you think it'll close in January?
We believe so, yes. And the 100 days from the October 21st study period in, I believe, comes out exactly to January 31st. So we should have it this month.
Update Progress Drive roof repair.
Yes, so the roof is done. The old gutters and downspouts, unfortunately, were not salvageable enough to reinstall and have them function properly. So in order to truly have a new system, we would need new roofs, new gutters and downspouts. The change order amount is $3,750. They provided the footage of the downspouts and gutters. Mr. Harold reviewed that and determined that was a reasonable cost.
That is correct.
So I would humbly ask that we approve that.
We're just approving the change order for $3,750.
Yes,
Because
sir.
we've already done the contract.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
And we had actually approved it, I thought, or discussed it last month.
I just want something in the record.
And
that's all.
so this is just, I guess, formalizing it, but we already knew we were gonna spend $3,750. Because there was nothing else we could do.
Yes.
I also want to add in that the Assets Committee knew that this was a risk, and we replaced that. So this is not something that was unexpected. We were hoping to salvage, just wasn't working. So we are okay with that, obviously.
Motion to approve the change order.
I so move.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is unanimous. Other items for the agenda before we go to closed session?
I just have a couple of quick comments.
Yes, sir.
If I could. This morning's papers, to our fine members of the press, reporting on it, the charges against Poe, the criminal charges were dismissed without prejudice. I asked Cullen Seltzer the rationale behind it, and essentially it's that they, with the late change in who was prosecuting from Layton to Parker, and Poe's pressing for a speedy trial, they just didn't have the time to prepare the case that they need to have. So by dismissing without prejudice, they can revive the charges later when they're better prepared. Sands Anderson has offered to cooperate with the new prosecutor to work with them on the charges. So it's not a horrendous event. It's one that's just necessitated by what needs to be done to do this successfully and fairly. The second is we did have a RFQ for debt collection that we did not get any responses on. So after talking with Sharon about it, we are able to go to local attorneys to ask them. So I'm in the process of working with one. I don't think I want to name a name at this point, but somebody very competent and able to do this kind of work to help us with our debt collection, legal services, and the
This
department.
one that I had already talked to that had submitted, he already had said he would do it. We can talk afterwards. but
Yeah,
I had
it's probably the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully Gretchen and I will be meeting with him to talk about it and then negotiating a contract.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Motion to go into closed session.
Whereas the Warren County Economic Development Authority desires to discuss in closed meeting the following matters: consultation with legal counsel regarding loan agreement with First Bank Strasburg pursuant to 2.2 3711A7. Discussion of disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. 404 Fairgrounds Road and 514 East Main Street pursuant to 2.2 3711A3. Whereas pursuant to VA Code 2.2 3711A7 and 2.2 3711A3, such discussions may occur in a closed meeting. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Warren County Economic Development Authority does hereby authorize discussion of the aforesaid matters in closed meetings. We can do this on a I'm sorry?
You have a second?
Second?
I need a second.
Second, need a second.
So
We can do this on a nay basis. We don't have to do it individually. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.